So, I'm glad the lighting is bad in here. Um, Most of you may or may not know that March was multiple sclerosis. I can't even say it right today. Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month. Um, I also, I have a lot of time to research and look into things, for my own knowledge and to help me learn as much as possible about my disease, because it's frustrating a lot of the time. I'm sure for anyone who has MS, it was a long time from the time they believe that was my onset to me getting diagnosed. I mean, I was basically most of the time made to feel like I was crazy. Maybe I am a little bit. Who's not these days? It's just remarkable to me now looking back. I wasn't a hypochondriac. My little dog's attacking me because I'm not giving her attention at the moment. I was not a hypochondriac. I was not lazy. I always worked since I was old enough to work. But at various times, I paid attention to my body, and if I started experiencing something, I guess, that didn't feel right to me, and I would go see my regular doctor in hopes that, not that I wanted to have, all these tests, but I had very good insurance at my employer at the time, and knew that it would be covered and stuff. But it's just remarkable to me looking back, like the lengths still, even with health insurance in America, that I had to go through to even get these tests. It's like unreal to me, the differences in areas of the world, countries, a lot of countries that, I was not aware of the fact of their, healthcare systems, and people not having to worry about expensive tests or getting this huge bill. I guess where I'm going with this is it is a sad time in America. And I never thought I would be in the situation I'm in. It is sad that in just a very short time that you can go from having one way of life, one lifestyle, and everything about you can change just like that. I mean, and I don't expect people to believe me, but I know because I'm living it. And like I said, it's not that through the years I was a hypochondriac, but I paid attention to my body. And if stuff started happening, like numbness, tingling, whatever in my feet, my family doctor then had attributed, there was all different kinds of syndromes that came, that's shift work syndrome, where I've been on the same shift in a factory for a long amount of time or years. So I changed shifts at work doing the same job, and it was the same. And then it was like, oh, you're on your feet on concrete all the time. And I'm like, okay, maybe I am, going crazy. But it's just been, I've been doing some research, I guess, to get where I'm going with this. I get a little sidetracked sometimes. I have a very, everyone with multiple sclerosis is different. That's why they call it. In case you don't know the snowflake disease, no two people with it are alike. And that is probably why there are so many difficulties in advancement of newer, better medicines instead of all the medicines are just they're experimental. Some help people, some don't help at all. I've had experiences where some of the medicines, the disease, DMDs or disease modifying therapies or whatever, may have made me worse. And I've been doing some research today, just looking into a few different things, because my current situation, is not, it's a world away from what I was used to when I was working. But I am thankful for everything I have in my life, every, thing I can still do with this disease at this point. 4 years after being officially diagnosed, but they're thinking the onset of it was 4 years prior to that. Just all my times of these symptoms that I was concerned about and describing to my physicians at that time wasn't a thought in their head, to do the test that, hey, maybe she might have this, But anyway, back to what I was talking about. Sorry, get sidetracked. Just, in 2015, it was estimated, which that was 3 years ago, so these numbers are probably higher now. But in 2015, in a poll done, it was estimated that the annual cost, including, going to treatment, the actual treatments or medicines, etc., for a person with multiple sclerosis in the United States, the annual cost at that time was approximately $69,000. Keep in mind I said annual. Now, thinking about this, at the job I was at for 10 years prior to this, me being diagnosed, that wasn't even my salary. It was maybe half that. And that was, working a lot of overtime and everything. And multiple sclerosis is not the only expensive disease. People with cancer, other autoimmune diseases that need these therapies, it is sad in this country sometimes the lengths you have to go through to get assistance to even get these diseases, and there's times where you have to make sometimes it could be life and death choices on what you spend your money on, or if you're on a set income, fixed income, should I say, like I am. I have to be really careful. Like, I live in constant fear, not only of my disease, but of something major happening that could change, the way I'm living now, or something down the road happen to my car, like my current situation. I cannot afford for something like that to happen, to have a car payment again, and my car is 8 years old. But thank goodness it's been a good car that I've paid for. But then sometimes when I have a lot of time to think, and I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my goodness, if I had to get another car and have a car payment, I would never make it. I guess I would just have to go without a car in hopes that someone could give me a ride to the store, to wherever I need to go. That's a whole other episode of this. But then, looking into other countries that have like a whatever's called a socialized health care plan for their country. The tests and the same tests and the same treatments for MS are free. So I'm puzzled as to, so this caused me, when I find out one thing, it causes me to further look into it. Call it OCD, call it inquiring minds want to know, or Allison wants to know. I just, and now, like, I mean, it's, the United States is a free market system, which means that there have been laws enacted that give the drug makers or companies the freedom to name their prices on these drugs in America. Now, a lot of these other countries that have a socialized or national health care system, they can't charge those same prices in those countries. You know, there's what they call a cap or, you know, a limit. And, you know, I know multiple sclerosis isn't something that everyone hears every day. I wish that nobody ever had to hear, you know, those words. They dramatically change your life. And the changes happen whether you want to deal with them, whether you want them to. You know, there's nothing, once you find out that you have it, there's nothing that can take that back. All that can move you forward is hope and, you know, your will to still live through, and you can live through things that may seem at the time to you that you'll never get through or get over, and it's hard. But you find out a lot about yourself, and when I finally heard those words, although at that exact moment I had no clue what multiple sclerosis was, it was an odd sense of relief in one aspect of it, because, you know, 2 days prior I had been told I had terminal brain cancer, and I was actually admitted to, like, the end stage of life or convalescent ward of the hospital. And you know, it's I just struggle to understand the differences. You know, it's people in this country, not only people with an incurable disease or a cancer, something like that, that can't afford health insurance, which is mandatory in this country. But if you can't afford it, some people have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to afford the premium, much less their medicines. Even if they have insurance, the United States being a free market system, they could, what I'm saying is that the same medicine that, say, you may have to go to the pharmacy in America and pay $1,000 each month for, the same medicine in a country with a more socialized healthcare system with these caps and everything, the medicine may be free. And that's what I struggle to understand as someone with multiple sclerosis. Yeah, okay, so you price gouge in America, and we're supposed to be one of the richest or wealthiest nations on this earth that all these other countries are supposed to admire or gaze at with admiration. Why? When if I lived in Britain, or if I lived in France or Canada, I would not have to make or be scared to death of what could happen with this illness because I would be taken care of. No, at this time, I'm not a taxpayer, and I live strictly on Social Security disability insurance, which is a system that I paid into the whole time I worked. Um, and with that, you may think that I'm one of these people that applied for disability and got it right off the bat. And I'm not. It took me 2.5 years, and honestly, I still wouldn't have it if some people weren't wondering the same question or things I was, as far as I had to cash out my 401k to live on. I'd already lost my house and everything else in bankruptcy. I'd been through a divorce. I had to move and then move back to Glasgow because it's been a lot. And I could have several, videos of this crap. But just reading some of these things I've found out in publications that the National Multiple Sclerosis Society in America, also in 2015, reported that 70% of MS patients reported, and this was in the quotation marks. That doesn't take away from the fact that makes it seem less real. But I just found that kind of funny that 70% of MS patients report some difficulty paying for their health care, and 16.4% reported a lot of difficulty. Okay, so as a whole, that would be what? 86.4%. I don't know what happened to the other. I guess they had the money to pay for it or health insurance to cover it. Reported some or a lot of difficulty in being able to pay for their health care with multiple sclerosis. Okay, and there's something called the Milliman Medical Index, which measures the out-of-pocket costs of health care. Okay, for example, for an American family of 4 on an average, if they had employee-sponsored plan, they came up with a figure of roughly $24,671 was the annual out-of-pocket cost 3 years ago for a family of 4 in America. Now, that number then had tripled since 2001 because of what I was talking about earlier, a spike in prescription drug costs in this country. Now, like I said, it's just ridiculous, and maybe I'm a little bit more lucky than some in this country that, I have Medicare now, which, thank goodness, being a single person, still living by myself, and I have to rent, I've already lost this disease. It was just so quick, not planning on anything like this ever happening. I lost my house, my job, everything, and having to rent again. It's just been, yeah. And Medicare says that it covers 80% and I'm supposed to be responsible for 20. Well, thank goodness eventually I qualified for the full charity assistance at the hospitals I do go to. Because I was thinking to myself, I take monthly infusions of Tysabri, which I've had 27 of. Not going to be able to be on that forever. But in America, one bag of that medicine can be as much as $28,000 a month. I hope you got that I said a month. Okay, well, I thought, I am supposed to be getting the $0 copay on the drug and all this stuff, but all the infusion charges and where I have to have it administered over a certain amount of time. And I was just, I guess, getting charged for this allotment of time. I got the first bill and my 20% per month of each infusion was going to be a little over $1,200. Now, in my mind, I was thinking, hey, if it's 100 at most, maybe I could do. But no, that's what I'm saying. How could they expect me when that's just a little bit less than what my total income for the month is? How do they expect me to pay that? I can't afford, and dental Medicare does not cover anything to do with vision or dental. Now, I can't even afford to have like a supplemental plan to help with some of those costs. I can't afford to pay a premium on a separate dental plan, and they have deductibles and all this stuff, so it's kind of like, what's the point in paying it for a month? So, long story short on that, I recently had to go to the dentist. Now, I have, since my bankruptcy and everything, I have kept myself completely out of debt because I can't afford to be in debt, but I found out really quick in my first dental visit to the only one that would work with you financially when you don't have insurance. I went from $0 in debt to a little over $2,000 in debt in my first visit, that they set me up on a payment plan that's going to take me 4 years to pay off. And that's just for, I had to make a choice between either getting just getting my teeth cleaned, getting the 2 teeth pulled, or doing a root canal, saving the 2 teeth, getting them whatever crown, all the bridge, all that bull crap. That was going to cost a little over $7,000, and I could not afford that kind of payment, nor did I have that kind of money. So here I am, stuck paying for 2 teeth getting pulled, a cleaning, and I've got to have 2 cavities filled, and had the periodontal gum disease, because I have to keep my health in check, being on a disease-modifying therapy that's also an immunosuppressant, or has over time keeps my immune system suppressed, because in multiple sclerosis and overactive, or your immune system can be overactive, thus causing the lesions or plaques or damages to your brain and spine. So, some things I don't have a choice about, so that adds a payment to me every month on top of my rent, utilities. I may, even though, I have my disability and Social Security disability income, I was on what I get. I was only offered $6 with the increase this year in food stamps. So, might as well say I pay for all my food too, because I was just like, no, thank you, but no. And it's just been very hard because I live in fear day to day of anything that could happen, any other medical thing. Like, I can't afford for anything else to happen. I can't afford, as is, to be sick in this country. And I know I'm not the only one. There's people that prolong treatment or going to the doctor until they can save up the money to pay down for treatment so they can even have it. I've seen where hospitals, if you're in there and your insurance is no longer paying and you don't have the money to pay your bill, I saw one movie today from that sicko documentary Michael Moore made, where they let this elderly woman out, had her in a taxi and let her out on the streets. She still had her arm bands on from the hospital, but they had, erased the name of the hospital and stuff. Some people have even had IVs still in them. Like I said, what kind of country is this? You know, what kind of country is it when our taxpayers pay an unsightly amount of taxes every week out of their checks? That's why some people have to work more than one job, especially if they have a big family. I mean, and it's like, then you pay the taxes, and like, I didn't know anything about this whole health, like Medicare and all that, until I was physically in it. I had no clue. I just had this, and a lot of people, if you have this unreal sense that when you get old enough to retire, that Medicare is going to pay for everything. No, it doesn't even pay for prescriptions. You have to take out a separate Part D prescription plan. Now, some people might have enough money every month to afford a supplemental plan. I can't afford the premium of that to come out of my disability pay, or I would not be able to even afford the rent where I'm at or anything. I mean, you get your disability back pay and stuff, and yeah, that's all great and fine, but I've had to use a lot of it for the extra things I've needed every month. Like if I've had to make an extra trip to the doctor, or if I had to, no, I don't have to have a dog, but she has been my comfort animal and has kept me from, when my mind goes to these dark places, it's given me a purpose. She's given me a purpose in life to take care of her. And I know that sounds crazy because a lot of times I struggle to take care of myself. But yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about today because my mind feels like there's smoke coming out of my ears. You all have a blessed Sunday, and thank you for watching.